Good evening, chat. Let me just plug in my iPad before we get started. So, we left off on Lance, and now we're going to be talking about Keith. So, actually, there's not a lot to talk about Keith and a lot to say about him, because his whole arc, surprisingly, was done pretty well within the show. Like, genuinely done pretty well within the show. And although it's one of the slower developmental arcs, we do notice the reason why. It's because of his character himself. Keith is a character that is portrayed that as someone who's resilient and sort of stuck in his ways at first, in not a sort of like way where it's like an old man who's stuck in his ways back in the 1800s. More so Keith is stuck in his ways because he wants to do something a specific way and wants to sort of get things done straight away. So when we get to Keith, although I say that there's not a lot to talk about, there actually is a lot to unpack here. What I mean by there's not a lot is that DreamWorks did him pretty well. He was the golden child of the whole entire series, and it was done really well. So what I want to talk about Keith first is sort of his moral and ethical dilemmas and his loyalty and abandonment issues within the whole entire series. This might not be in chronological order with stuff that I'm saying, but it's just bits and pieces here that kind of just build everything up. And honestly, so the first part we'll be discussing is his moral and ethical dilemmas and his loyalty, that is the loyalty to Voltron. I'll just stop the video here and come. Okay, so when we're talking about Keith's moral and ethical dilemmas and his loyalty, it's basically this rift between him, what he decides is right, and what is actually right, or what he thinks is wrong and what's actually wrong. So when we return to Keith's Blade of Mamora arc, the arc where he's sort of leaning more towards the Blade of Mamora rather than Voltron, I think it's between season 3 to season 6, something like that. It's after he's been put under immense stress and pressure that has been forced into a position he feels he cannot handle. His earlier time with the Blade of Mamora was about finding his history. So in the earlier area of the Blade of Mamora arc, it was basically him trying to learn why he's Goro and if is his mom Goro. That was the first half of the arc, of the Blade of Mamora arc. But this time, he's being put under immense stress and pressure, and he feels like he can't handle it and stuff like that. It's that specific season where he sort of goes and leaves Voltron to work for the Blade of Mamora, and he sort of struggles to keep up, basically. And this time, in this arc here, he's trying to figure out his place in the present when he feels like he has none. So he feels like he doesn't sort of have a place at the moment. He's sort of in between either Voltron or the Blade of Mamora. And especially he's leaning more towards the Blade of Mamora because being Voltron's leader just doesn't feel right. Especially when Shiro returns and the Black Line sort of accepts him as well. Keith's just like, alright, where do I go now? Where should I fit in? I can't just sit around and do nothing. I need to do something. So Keith has this sort of drive that he's just, I need to get things done. I want to do something. I want to be impactful. Not in the same way that Lance does it, but in a sort of way where he doesn't want to be slacking around. He wants to genuinely do things that are helpful and do things that can get the mission completed, basically. So that's the difference between Lance and Keith. Although they have similar sort of idea of wanting to have this drive of doing something, Lance is the one where he's, I want to do it to impress someone, and Keith is the one where he actually wants to get it done and be impactful in that way. So then, especially when Shiro is also challenging Keith's call at every single turn, it sort of makes this rift even larger. Like, he's like, okay, so if I shouldn't be here, why should I? If I shouldn't be with Voltron, why should I? I'll go to the Blade of Mamora. And in the episode called The Code of Honor, it really reflects what was racing through Keith's mind at the time. Honor means everything to Keith, actually. Honor is like so important. Like, he's not going to compromise himself for the sake of the team. So he wants to show that he, in some form, is good enough and that he upholds all this sort of I don't know. So his honor. Bro, I forgot. One second. My lord. His sense of honor is just so great that he just ignores his own feelings and his own sense of morals, and that comes at the risk for the team as well. So despite everything, what the fuck? Okay, so since honor is so important to him, it's like above all else. His duty is above all else, and that's his issue. He thinks that I need to do this for the sake of everything else, and I can dismiss my own feelings, my own morals, and for everything for the sake of the team. You know, like, okay, no, not for the sake of the team, but for the sake of like the entire universe, basically. And even if that disrupts the team, we can see if we revisit this episode here, he wanted to get Lotor so badly. He wanted to get that guy. He wanted to like, frick, I need to do this. I need to get this guy before he causes any more trouble to anyone else. And basically, his drive to get him just disillusions him from the reality of actually trying to work as a team. That he can't just go and sort of get Lotor himself. He needs to work as a team in that sort of sense. And it's just, this drive is just so crazy that it breaks the team apart in this episode. And he realizes that, actually. I put the entire team in jeopardy. And so with Lance's help, they get the team back together, and they sort of, the episode concludes. So yeah, and it's sort of so extreme to the point where he's just like, man, fuck it, we ball, let's leave Voltron. So because he thinks he can't stand, he literally, quite literally, can't stand sitting still and wasting time and putting on Axe when Lotor is still out there somewhere and still very much at large. And when the Blade of Mamora arc is on the verge of discovering a new strain of quintessence, and there's so much good that he feels could be done with the Order, with the Blade of Mamora. And that's why he leaves. He feels like, I'm not gonna sit around and watch you guys put on a play for this to make everyone happy when I could actually be helping people in the long run by destroying them first and quickly. But then, even then, Keith is forced to confront his own beliefs, and he feels torn between personal loyalties and duty. He feels torn between. We've had this beautiful build-up of him trying to work as a leader and a team for Team Voltron, and now that with the Blade of Mamora introducing itself, he's like, what the hell do I do? He feels torn between these personal loyalties and the actual duty of getting things done. And time again, Colovan, I'd never even lied to this guy. Colovan tries to drill into him that the Blade of Mamora is not Voltron, and that they always have to make sacrifices. And Keith must be willing. He must be willing to put the mission and self-preservation first. He can't go back and save someone. He can't go back and do anything. He would never leave someone behind, and that's a danger to Colovan's entire operation. So Keith is torn between this. He is torn between he's torn between the first item is his sense of morals and ethical stuff, and then he is then torn between two, which is his duty. So he believes that because of this beautiful build-up of Voltron, he thinks that he needs to work as a team and he shouldn't leave anyone behind. But then when he's working for the Blade of Mamora, it's the exact opposite, because one of his guys got left behind, and Keith's like, we gotta go back and save that guy. We can't just leave him in it for dust, bro. We can't. We literally just can't. And Colvan's like, no, bruh. Self-preservation first and the mission first. We can't be doing that crap around here in the Blade of Mamora. That's how we've been surviving for so long. And that's what gives this rift between Keith's morals and his duty. Although he wants to be able to make a difference and be able to do more good with the Order, this exact contradiction of his morals is causing him stress, and it's causing him, he feels like he can't handle anymore, because why? He's just questioning himself. He's like, why should I leave this guy behind? Why? And then he goes, and Colovan tries again and again to impress him the importance of distancing himself from emotional attachment. Colovan, he is an alien, but we can sort of think of Colovan as a sort of robot who gets his missions done. So if we take on that, it's kind of saying that the Blade of Mamora is sort of like a blade that, time and time again, they're robots. They have no feelings. They shouldn't have feelings, so that for the sake of the universe, they can create an impact for the universe, because they can't just dwindle on like futile things. I can't think of the word. It's like something sort of like in something enders, and I don't know, but they can't just dwindle on just small things and stuff. That's how they've been surviving for so long, because they don't have that sort of thing where they keep each other together. If one dies, no one cares. They go on with the mission. They don't go and try and save back and risk a whole operation. They have everything planned out, and that's why they've been surviving for so long. And then Colovan is sort of making Keith into this sort of human robot, trying to make him a part of this stupid Blade of Mamora ideals, where he's like, nah, leave everything behind and come work with us as a robot. Basically, is what it is. And that's why when Keith takes over the Blade of Mamora, the Mamora has a sort of lighter perspective on them. Now they're spreading peace around to the universe, and there's more of a sort of warmth, empathy associated with them by the end of the series, because Keith is now leading them, and that's what his arc is. We'll get to that later, but yeah, just remember, I'll get to it later. I'll write it down. No, here, arc. BOM feels lighter. Okay, and then Allura tells him, but our mission is bigger than any one individual, and when he refuses to move on from Shiro, he tries to take on a different path. She says, the Mamora can go on without you, and they have for thousands of years, but Voltron can't. That's what makes this rift so unbelievably huge between Keith, his morals and ethical loyalties, and his duty. Because what use am I if I'm with Voltron and they're diddly-daddling? And what use am I with the Blade of Mamora if I can't put my feelings in the past, So this is what I said here, a rift between what he thinks should be done versus the loyalty to Voltron. Even at the start of the freaking ass season 1, when Pitch tries to leave, Keith is like, you're putting the lives of everyone in the entire galaxy in danger, because he's like, he was that loyal to Voltron, because he finally found some sort of purpose within it all. He sort of found, I can be of high importance now. I can be impactful and do something now. Because for so long, for so long. We can see this parallel between Pidge and Keith as well, because Keith, for so long, he tried to do something and try and find Shiro when he was escaped, and Pidge, for so long, tried to find where her dad and her brother went for so long. So that's what made this drive to, if the garrison won't do shit and try and find my unblood-related brother Shiro, I will try as well. He thinks if this is just useless shit, I would do it myself. It's basically what it is. That's him. And so that's basically what it is. And then when we get down to Keith's inner, more sort of not so obvious but also obvious sort of stuff, we go down to his desire to be accepted, and we'll also talk about his abandonment issues. Alright, so the desire to be accepted and his abandonment issues. Hi, Machi. So, in the very first season, he latched onto Voltron like a freaking crutch, bro. The Blue Lion was all that kept him afloat during his self-imposed exile to the desert, and the Lion was there for him when he had no one else. And later, Team Voltron becomes the family he's always wanted. His position on Voltron also presents him with a unique opportunity to feel truly fulfilled in the same way that becoming a pilot at the garrison did. This sort of sense of purpose. After getting kicked out, he felt lost. So his purpose was sort of obliterated once he got kicked out of the garrison, and so that's why he was so obsessed with the Blue Lion, because now that was his new purpose. And discovering that strange energy in the carvings of the Blue Lion gave him a sense of purpose, and Voltron gave him a purpose. He gave him the purpose that he desperately wanted to believe in. He desperately wanted to believe in. And for once, instead of being looked down upon or dismissed as a disciplined case, he can be the good person he always wanted to be. A hero, even. So, he's just a troubled person. He was just a troubled kid that wanted to find sort of purpose. So when Shiro gave him that purpose at the garrison, he worked really well and everything. But then when he got kicked out, the purpose was suddenly gone. So here, the constant desire to be accepted as well. He wants to sort of be accepted within some institution or situation or any sort of circumstance that's given to him, that he wants to feel accepted so that he has a purpose there, that he matters and he should be there, you know? And initially when the team wants him to be the leader, when Shiro disappeared, he's actually hesitant at the start because he thinks, why would anyone want me to be their leader? I'm basically no one, nothing. And he even admits that he's sort of like he even admits what he feels about what everyone thinks of himself. You guys know me. I'm not fit to be a leader. I've got anger issues or something. I don't remember what he said, but he's shaken by the idea because he's afraid that deep down the team won't want him as a leader. He thinks that, and he feels unworthy of such a title anyway, because what made him a leader is so not it. Like, he doesn't deserve to be a leader. It's Shiro is what he thinks, and this disillusionment paves way for an arc, which we'll discuss later. So he wants to be accepted in any sort of circumstance, in a I don't know, institution or something. He wants acceptance for a purpose. He wants acceptance so that he can have a purpose, so that he feels that he can do something. And that's what here. He struggles with this acceptance everywhere because, oh my lord, even in Voltron, they were like, at first they were like, leader Keith, what the hell? And then he doesn't want to step up as a leader because what if no one accepted him as a leader anyway? And then when he's in the Blade of Mamora, he's just, he feels like he can't be accepted, that he struggles and he's stressed out so much because why can't I just be accepted within the Blade of Mamora and be the person that I need to be for the sake of the universe? Why can't I? And it's because he's torn between loyalty and his duty, his morals and his duty, you know? And that's why in any second place he's like, I can't be accepted for good God reason anyway, and I can't find a purpose anyway because, my lord, I kind of mess up everywhere I go, just a little bit. And I almost put Colivan's operation at risk because I believed saving this guy was right, but the Blade of Mamora doesn't? What am I supposed to do? Am I truly accepted in the Blade of Mamora, or am I not? You know, and it's just this whole dilemma that he goes through he wants to be accepted for a purpose, but how can he be accepted when he can't follow everything and he has this rift between his morals and his duty? It's basically impossible. It makes him stress out. It makes him go cuckoo nuts, basically. And then, like, this is not really related, but he also has abandonment issues. Good God grief, why y'all giving him this crazy ass? You guys are pumping stuff on Keith, it's crazy. Like, I feel like they just wrote a bunch of traumatic stuff and just dunked it on him. Made him all stressed out. You know, it's just, oh my lord, crazy. And then we go, the one exception Keith is allowed in his life in terms of expressing himself was probably Shiro. So when he was with Shiro, that was the only way he could express himself and, you know, and feel accepted as well. You know, like, he felt the closest to him. So when he left, he was like, good God grief, no one will like me anyways. No one understands me anymore. Lord, I'm cooked, is basically it. And he's like, I think. And then, like, in the battle of Keith versus Shiro, and he says, I love you, which is, like, literally crazy development, because he doesn't go around handing out hugs and love hearts to everybody. You know, like, that's because he needs to feel accepted by someone to be able to do that in the first place. He's not Loverboy Lance that seeks it. He is quite the opposite. He he seeks acceptance, and then that's when he becomes close to them, you know? He needs to feel reassured that he will be accepted. And, you know, in a way, they're both really similar. And I think I might just write down in the caption Lance versus Keith so that it's more clear on what I'm saying. But I feel like you guys will understand, right? So, yeah. Good God grief, his abandonment issues too. And then he even says things, I don't know why I'm that way. Maybe I'm naturally untrusting because my mom left me, and so instead of accepting people into my life, I push them away before they reject me. I guess I have some walls up because, oh my God, so many people have abandoned him that he's just like, I'm not opening up to anybody and not letting my feelings be shown because what if they reject me first? Oh my God. This guy has been trauma dumped a bunch on, and it's freaking crazy. All this stuff here, like all this highlighting I did, oh my Lord, we went through a lot, we talked through a lot, and that is insane work, you know? Like, Jesus. This guy has been through so much. And that's the reason why he can't work with the team well, because he thinks that at the end of the day, if I get close to these people will just leave me anyways. And it's kind of ironic, it's because he's the one that leaves them at the end of the seasons, you know? Which is so funny because he thinks that leaving the team is the best option for the team because he thinks that in some shape or form that they don't even need him anyway. He pushes them away before they go, we don't need you. He does all that before, you know. And it's just crazy work. It's crazy. I think I need to break a little. Sorry, guys. Alright. Great work. Booyah. We went through a lot. All of this. And I'll summarize it just real quick. 1. Torn between duty versus loyalty. What the hell? Loyalty and ethical dilemmas, blah blah blah. 2. The desire to be accepted and to be accepted so that he can have a purpose. And I feel like the abandonment issues is a bit we can dismiss that, but it's still relevant in the way that he needs to put his walls down to work as a team. So when we get to Keith's arc, after all the Blade of Mamora shit and all this Voltron dilemma loyalty poo, it eventually becomes apparent to Keith that he can't just stay with the team no longer, and he needs to go on his own quest for the sake of what he believes is right. So now he's making decisions based off what he thinks. So what's right for the team, and Shiro as a Black Pan, as well as what's right for the universe. So what's right for the team, what's right for the universe, and what's right for him. So he goes and leaves, and he also desperately needs to do some deep introspection before he's fully ready to accept the mental leadership that's been demanded of him. So he leaves, and there's no Voltron for a long time because he left, because Shiro can't pilot the Black Lion anymore. And so the writers give us that. They give us this time that Keith grows in the Quantum Abyss. The Quantum Abyss is a blessing in disguise, is what it is. It gives him quiet time to rethink and what he thinks is nice and everything. Not what things no. He gives him time to rethink and just, you know, rediscover himself as a person. It's basically quiet time to reflect and relive. And also in this moment in the Quantum Abyss, he relives out his happy childhood. What? That is a bad highlight. He relives his childhood that he never had with his mom, and he basically regains some of that youth he actually lost. And this also has a big effect on his ability to mature and move on stuff, so that he's not stuck in the past, and he doesn't he doesn't sort of stay in the past and keep his walls up, you know. And then eventually he becomes a leader who cares for his team, because after the Quantum Abyss he comes back and he's ready to, you know, accept this role. He's had quiet time from the Blade of Mamora. He's had quiet time from both Voltron and the Order, so that he can think and see what's right. This is his arc. He goes on this arc to see what's right, and then he comes to the conclusion that Voltron is what he needed. He needed this nice balance between duty and also morals and ethical and loyalty. This Voltron was the perfect balance of that, and it's because now that he's finally the leader of Voltron, the true and one and only leader, he sort of now has a purpose, because everyone accepts him as the leader now, because Shiro can't pilot the Black Lion anymore, and only Keith can. So that's why I keep hitting the sleep button, but anyways, they accept him for what he truly is, and what he should be, a leader for their team. They need him to be able to form Voltron, and he needs them so that he can feel accepted and have a purpose, and finally, people can see him he can be seen. And then he basically takes this big leap of faith in like season 7, and he just goes to Hunk. And wait, he goes from like where him and Hunk were at season 1 to a place where he's finally able to say that he thinks that Hunk is like the most impressive paladin. I never told you this, but out of all the paladins, you're the ones I'm most impressed by. And that's huge. That's the fattest leap of faith that Keith comes to, that he can go from being torn from duty to being able to calm down and look at his team and become a leader for them. And that's major development, because at first he wanted to put his priorities right and get the duty done. Get it done. And I think we're supposed to revisit something here. No, we revisit that later arc. That when he finally leaves the Blade of Mamora and goes to Voltron for that last stretch of few seasons, he becomes a part of a family that is quite the opposite to the Blade of Mamora, and he likes that. This sort of empathy that he feels, this sympathy and empathy that he feels from the other paladins, makes him feel seen. This togetherness, this family that he so much wanted before. Finally, he got it. He got it, and he's realized that, and now he's trying to work towards this team bonding, basically, and that's what it is. And he reaches to a place where he's able to freaking connect and comfort Hunk on such a deeply personal level at the time where Hunk needed him the most. And these aren't just important team building skills, they're the markings of great leadership as well. To be able to be a leader is to be able to be one with the people. And he's taking care of his team by talking to them and understanding what their feelings are and their opinions on different matters, because at first he wanted to do what was right for the sake of everyone and not listen to any other opinions and anything else. He felt the need to have duty above all else. He realized not only to open up to others, but build enough of a bridge where his team trusts him completely, where they're able to open up and reach back out to him in turn. This stuff doesn't come easy to Keith, but he takes time to learn and reach out because of how much he cares. He genuinely cares for his team, because he realizes that his team is the one and only, like the Blade of Mamora was not it. He went and tested with them, and it was just this. It was so stressful on him that he just quit. He went on this little arc in the quantum abyss, and he finally realizes that, like, damn, with this time with my mom, I feel like this time to have one-on-one chats with everyone is the thing that I need for my whole team as well. This sort of sublime, beautiful relationship with everyone, so that we can work better as a team. To be able to work better as a team is to also have beautiful conversations and beautiful skills and team building bonding moments, so that they in the end can get the duty done more efficiently and ethically, more efficiently and more satisfying. Like, it's more satisfying to get a mission completed when the team is all a part of it together. And the Blade of Mamora was the opposite of that, and that's why he felt so torn between those two, between Voltron and the Mamora, because his sense of duty and his loyalty was so drifted at that stage in time that he got really stressed out. And in summary, he learns that working alone, it definitely does wonders. I mean, like, he's definitely gone on missions alone and everything, and it's amazing, even when you realize it, doing stuff alone it literally quite never works in this series. Like, even at the first time when Keith tries to take Shiro away in the very first episode from the garrison, like, he got Lance and Hunk's help to escape that entire base, basically. And definitely working alone does wonders, but what he truly longs for is to be a part of a family that accepts him and supports him, That's what he truly longs for. And working alone definitely does wonders, but working as a family and as a team together, working together is way more satisfying than working alone. And this is the difference between Lance and Keith. Lance, on the other hand, he wants to take all the glory for himself. He wants to be able to show that he's worthy of it. But Keith, he wants to work alone to get things done. He wants to get the duty of it done. And, he doesn't want to feel, he doesn't want to feel worthy of it just so that he can get the duty done. He's just, I think I'm going to need to elaborate on this later. But anyways, And he gets this through accepting and prioritizing his friends over duty, because in the end, it's the people that are there for you that matter, and everything is done better as a team. Think about it. You know, like, it's just way better. In teams, everyone is able to share and collectively put their alike minds together and stuff, and it's like amazing. That's his arc. He learns to be a leader for them, and he learns that working alone is not always the best option, you know? And then, like, I'm wondering, wow, Lance was not mentioned at all in any of this, and I'm like, okay, so how does Lance tie into this? And I'm like, nah, he doesn't exactly really tie into this at all, but it isn't even focused on Lance. Compared to Lance's arc, where Keith is pretty much, quite literally, involved a lot in his arc, basically, but Lance isn't, because Keith is the golden child, and he goes through a lot, and he goes on a path of rediscovery, and it's amazing work. And I guess the way that Lance can tie into this is that he makes him feel like he matters. He was one of the second people to accept Keith as a leader in that one-on-one scene right here, that he thinks that he respects the Black Lion's choice to accept him as a leader, because he thinks that quite literally Keith can be fit to be a leader, and he respects that, and he's like, I will be your right-hand man, bro. I will do it. Like, whatever you go, I'll go with you. Swear to God. And that's the first crack of Keith finally feeling this sense of acceptance from somebody, so that he finally has a purpose, and that purpose was being accepted as a leader for Voltron. And the Blade of Mamora was quite literally the opposite of that, and that was not it. Blade of Mamora was not it for him. And that's the thing with the Blade of Mamora. When he finally takes over it at the end of season 8, this whole new warmth is invited. This whole new perspective is invited to the Blade of Mamora, because for once, instead of segregating everyone for the sake of missions, everyone's finally working together to do better for the universe. They're going around doing cool things for the universe now. They're spreading messages of empathy and joy and hope to everyone, Like, they're finally working together, and that's why when at the very end, that clip, instead of seeing the Blade of Mamora as some sort of scary little cult thing that, like, is against the Gora, we finally see them as some organization that helps people one-on-one. They don't go around and do it behind the scenes. Although behind the scenes is great, to fully be able to have an impact on someone's life is to be able to do the one-on-one and also do the behind stuff, Like, you can't just go, like, for example, like you're doing a musical play and stuff, like, you can do all the things. Like, you can do the lighting and the stage and everything and stuff, and if you just end the musical without acknowledging those people, you're just gonna think the actors did the best. It's like you need to be able to have influence on someone. It's like when you're going to war, and then the only people that save you is quite literally, like, you trying to escape, and you think that luck just came to you, but no, it's actually the people that were working behind the scenes, so you never acknowledge that. And that's just the thing. Now the Blade of Mamora is having this one-on-one chat with people. They're having this new ideal and perspective of him, because now that Keith has finally taken over with his new ideals and his warmth and his empathy, that's when the Blade of Mamora changes from this sort of ideal where they're stuck in their ways, And so what about Klance, y'all are wondering? What about Klance? And so if you think about it, Lance was the first person to see potential in Keith as leader, and Lance pushes him to do so. What if? So I also sort of want to just give a summary, because that was a pretty hefty section we just talked on, and about Keith and everything. So I just want to summarize that. 1, Keith, at first, he is torn between duty and ethical dilemmas and loyalty to Voltron. At first, he has the sense of duty to be able to... He's so stuck in his ways that he thinks that I need to get things done, and I want to do it alone because of his abandonment issues. When, at first, his abandonment issues caused him to want to work alone and solo, because when he works alone and solo, he doesn't have to run the risk of being rejected or being left alone by that person. And so that's why he's so stuck just doing stuff by himself in the first few seasons, and so against working as a team. That's why he always breaks up the team at many points as well. So when in this time he was so focused on getting Loto that he could not care less about the team. and it caused them to break up. And then we can also see cracks of his development of him acknowledging that he did put the entire team in jeopardy as well. And so, and then we transition from this stuck way where he's just always stuck with getting the duty above all else. He thinks Voltron is just basically useless, and that he feels like there's so much more good he could be doing with the Blade of Mamora because they're actually achieving more things than Voltron has been doing so far. So that's when he goes to the Blade of Mamora, he works for them and stuff. But then he feels so stressed out, and so I don't know. He feels out of place in the Blade of Mamora as well. So when he feels out of place in both Voltron and Blade of Mamora, he doesn't even know where he stands at this point. Where does he go? Sorry, my doggies. Oi, shut it! So when he feels torn between these two identities of wanting to get things done, but also wanting to work wanting to feel accepted and be a part of a team, he doesn't know which one to choose at that point. And then he only realizes at the point where he realizes that the Blade of Mamora was not it for him, that the fact that the Blade of Mamora always wanted to leave people behind and put the duty above all else. Although Keith, yes, he did want to put the duty above all else and get stuff done at first, but then he realizes that he doesn't want to leave people behind. Just as much as people leave him behind in the first place, he doesn't want to leave other people behind. That's why he's so focused on trying to get Shiro in the first place, because he doesn't want to be left alone again. So that's why he thinks, I don't want to leave people behind just for the sake of a mission. I want to be able to save everyone and have a satisfying ending where everything is accounted for. The mission is finished and everyone is there with me. So that's why he goes back to Voltron, and he realizes that Voltron is the best option for him, because that's when he finally realizes that being the leader for his team is how he can be a part of a family in the first place. So when he finally opens up and reaches out to other people, that's when he starts to finally feel accepted for himself. This leap of faith in other people was so significant that when he made this leap of faith and people finally accepted him as a leader, and Hunk actually genuinely liked Keith, he feels surprised, but he also now feels accepted to have the purpose of being a leader. So now that he feels accepted, now that that acceptance has created a purpose for him to be here, he now wants to stay within Voltron. So now he works as a leader for Voltron. Blade of Mamora was the complete opposite. And when Voltron is no longer needed, he goes back to the Blade of Mamora, obviously, but things change then. And I've already said it before, about 5 minutes ago. That's when things change for the Blade of Mamora too. So since now Keith is one of the prime leaders, he promotes change within the Mamora, within the Order, so that instead of just prioritizing missions, we need to be now prioritizing the people and the people inside of our teams as well, so that we can have a more efficient and less self-sacrificing sort of cult, because no one wants to die just for the sake of something, like if I had to die but I could save 100 people, I wouldn't want to die either way. I have my own life, and everyone has their own lives. No one should die just for someone else. We have to work around that sort of stuff, and that's what Keith thinks. He works around that sort of stuff, and so that's the summary of it basically. And he had so much to talk about that everything was pretty disjointed in the first place. Everything was quite disorganized. So I just quickly had to put in this little end summary after editing, because I was rewatching the video and I realized how much it was not really comprehensible in a way. So I just put in this little ending summary for you guys, just so that it makes more sense now. Because now that in this little section I've put everything in chronological order and said it in chronological order, so yeah, so now you can rewind it easier at this point. I'll probably even timestamp it as well. So yeah, and then after now that we're done Keith and his character, we can also go back to the overall Klance bit and the compatibility. And I won't say a lot, but let's just say the characters work pretty well together, considering how Lance is. You know what? I won't say anything. I'll record it later and I'll upload it. So, yeah. But Lance doesn't actually play a big role in this, but it's nice to see that he actually does. He does. I don't know. I have to watch a bit more clips and stuff. But yeah. Okay. See you guys in the next video where we actually talk about Klance. And now I want to mention that Keith didn't have stuff to do that was about how DreamWorks wasted and stuff, because his developmental arc was really well done. It was perfectly done. You just have to dig a bit to understand it and stuff. And a lot of people kept saying that he was a cold, harsh person for leaving Voltron, but it was because he was going through a lot, so you can't blame him for that. So Yeah, the dogs are fighting. I better separate them. Oh my god, they're literally like two guys. They're literally like two dogs as well. Like two male dogs, and they're literally humping each other. I don't know if they're gay or not, which is kind of like funny because I'm talking about gay people right now, and there's gay dogs in my room, which is great. One of them is literally biting their ass right now, and they were literally humping each other. Their penis was erected and everything. Kind of gross. I did not want to say that loud. I don't even know why I said that out loud, but it was gross. And I don't know. I have to take them on a walk later. So bye.